by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of minutes for the May 5, 2025 meeting. These minutes were distributed to the commissioners in advance of today's meeting. Do any of the commissioners have any changes to the minutes? Okay. I had one correction, clarification. This is on page 5 of 6. It's in regard to item 3E concerning the application of 212981 for the final approval of land development at the Ithan Elementary School. The vote taken, as noted, was a motion to recommend denial. That motion carried on a vote of 5-3, which is properly noted. However, the line states approve : motion carried 5-3, and I found that confusing because if approve is just modifying motion carried, it's duplicative. So my recommendation would be to remove approve : to avoid confusion. Okay. So with that clarification, I would move to approve the minutes of May 5, 2025 as amended. Do I have a second? Okay. Second by Fruman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So with that, we have 5 ayes, 1 abstention by Commissioner Nat. I'm going to move out of order on the agenda. So turning to consideration of application 214635 for land development 2004 to 2028 Stratford Avenue and 18 Forest Lane, Stratford Walk. This was for a preliminary subdivision and land development plan. Here, the applicant has requested to have this item tabled for this evening. Based on that, I move to table application 214635 for land development at 2004 to 2000, or strike that, at 204 to 228 Stratford Avenue and 18 Forest Lane. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Fruman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is consideration of application 213220 for land development at 3 Meadowcrest Road. This is a preliminary final subdivision plan. Here, the applicant is proposing to subdivide the existing property into 2 new parcels. As part of our consideration, we have received letters from Gannett Fleming dated May 23, 2025, from Gilmore & Associates dated May 13, 2025. Notably, earlier this year, the applicant appeared before the zoning hearing board and received a variance on a steep slope issue. At this point, the applicant is seeking, as I understand, 3 waivers.
It's a private road, so I guess we requested a waiver for it. But since it's a private road, I don't know really if a waiver is required for it. Because
So let me ask
right
before we jump into it, can you just identify yourself?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Nick Cornelia representing the applicant on the matter. You start? Okay. You may recall you had seen this previously, and it regarded steep slope. What happened? There was steep slope in this area, which was removed. A plan was submitted to the Planning Commission for a 2-lot subdivision. Initially, that plan moved the lot line a little bit, I guess it would be to the west, and expanded slightly the home. It didn't disturb any more steep slopes or anything of that nature. But when we came back here, after receiving the zoning approval for the steep slope, they said since the plan wasn't entirely the same as what the zoning hearing board approved, we had to go back to the zoning hearing board. So we went back to the zoning hearing board, and they did approve this plan and the shifting of the lot to the west. So that brings us here today, and the one other difference in that plan is previously this driveway was on this area, was on the eastern side of the site, near the adjacent neighbor. That has been shifted now to this area here, as far as location of it is concerned. As to the review letters, the Gannett Fleming letter dated May 23rd, it does mention that the zoning relief was granted, and as I mentioned, it was actually 2 times it was granted. The first time for the steep slope, the second time for the modification of the plan. The next 2 items listed as waivers are regarding standards for streets, as far as lot width. Now, this street's a private street. It's this width all the way through to it. There's really no difference on it. And then the other waiver, again, dealt with private street and the right-of-way, which really there is no right-of-way on a private street because that's a public right-of-way. But they were 2 items that it was recommended that we request waivers for, and so we have. And then the third waiver was for all the locating sewer lines and construction matters within 500 feet of the property, which is a common waiver for this type of development, or for any development actually before Radnor. And then the other item, the Gilmore letter, just mentions those 3 waivers, talks about that the Board of Commissioners can request additional cartway, may request additional right-of-way, but again, as I mentioned, this is a private street.
Okay. So before we get into the consultant letters, I wanted to turn to our solicitor. Mr. Nelson, do you have comments on this application?
Yeah, Nick, I have 2 concerns about the application. The first one has to do with the fact that both Chew and Meadowcrest roads are private roads. And there is a provision in Saldo, I'm sure you're familiar, you're only allowed to have 5. It's my opinion that you can't separate the 2 and say, well, you can have 5 on Chew and 5 on Meadowcrest, since Meadowcrest runs into Chew and Chew then runs into a public road. You only can have 5 total for this whole development, and you're already over. So I think you need to ask for a 4th waiver to that particular section of the Saldo.
So I guess you're saying on Meadowcrest, which is where we measure, we don't, I believe this, how many would this be on Meadowcrest?
There's 3 right now in Meadowcrest.
3. So this would be 4 on Meadowcrest. And then, but there, I believe that the ordinance says on a private street, these are separate private streets.
Yeah, and but I think that's just kind of artificial separation. You're,
Oh,
you know, under that argument, you could hook up, 20 private streets or name each driveway as a private street and say, oh, I only got 1 house on this private street. So it's my opinion that you need to ask for a waiver to that.
we'll ask for, I don't necessarily agree with the analysis, but we'll ask for the
Yes.
waiver in any event.
And the second one's probably more difficult. I don't see the house being oriented towards Chew, and therefore I don't see the backyard, what you've demarcated as a backyard as being correct. That one, lot 1.
Do we have,
Yeah, the house clearly is oriented toward Meadowcrest.
no, I believe that's the front's here, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the way you've designed it, but I think, once again, looking at that, I don't see that as meeting the ordinance requirement. The house is clearly oriented towards Meadowcrest
This is
Road.
the first time, this is the first time this didn't appear in any of the review letters at all. This is the first
Well,
time.
I believe actually Roger's review letters did raise this as a possible issue, and that it needed further examination, maybe examination of architectural. In fact, I think the first plan you guys showed, it really didn't show where the front door was, and then you revised the plans to try to have the front door facing Chew Lane. But just because you have a door facing Chew Lane, I don't think that's enough to meet the requirements of the ordinance.
My name is John Anderson, civil engineer with Cornerstone. We designed the plan. We did not design the architecture of the building. However, the building is fully designed, and it does show, and we provided that as the supplemental information to the last, resubmission of the plan. And the whole building design, this is the front entrance of that building, and that's clearly shown in the architectural plan.
Do we have that here?
Sir, could you speak into the mic, please, for the folks at home?
Sorry about that.
Do we have that?
I don't have it with me, but
Do we have it on a thumb drive or anything?
I don't have it.
Well, so my comment is I think you need to provide further proof to the township to back up the statement that the house faces Chew Lane, or, obviously if the township's not satisfied with that, you're going to have to get a variance to that request, or reconfigure the house so it meets having the backyard opposite Meadowcrest.
Yeah, Nick, if you look at the grading plan, that sidewalk isn't shown on the grading plan. It's only shown on this rendering. The architecture wasn't part of the land development set either. It might have been to the zoning board, but it wasn't part of this set. I didn't see them.
Yeah, certainly I didn't see.
Yeah. But that,
Again, I'm pretty sure I have the plans that he's referring to, but that's not the house, because they're saying the orientation of the house.
didn't anticipate any of this. Respectfully, we request a tabling of the motion. I'll give the township necessary extension in order to proceed with it. These issues, first time we're hearing of them, really, this evening, and hopefully we can address them next time.
Okay. I believe Commissioner Fruman had one additional comment.
Sure.
Yeah, before you go, I want to make sure that you're expedient as
Yes,
well.
please.
We share in that desire. So the Gilmore letter, page 2, item D1, AII. So Meadowcrest Road is classified as a local road with a required 28-foot cartway. I do believe that you're pretty narrow there. One of the ways you may want to address it is by widening your section of the road. But I do feel that the existing cartway is rather narrow for what you're trying to accomplish here. So maybe you can come back with something a little bit wider.
We'll look at it.
Yeah, just a suggestion.
Thanks. And I appreciate any other comments the board may have, too, so.
So first question is, are there any other comments from the commissioners? Okay. Are there any other comments that staff would like to make tonight?
Yes, sir. So I apologize. With what Mr. Fruman was noting, the half widths really aren't going to be adequate, and we're requesting on these two waiver items. That's really what staff is concerned with, that you have a 15-foot wide road for these new homes on the one and 18-foot wide.
Do you have a recommendation, Steve, or? Mr.
Yes, I
Cassini?
concur with Mr. Fruman. So at least on the new subdivision side, wherever it touches either Chew or Meadowcrest, that half width should be created to meet the 28-foot cart width. So the half width would be 14 on the housing side, on Chew and on Meadowcrest.
And right now, there are 9. Is that, would that be accurate? Or it's 9 on Chew and
So on Chew Lane, it's an 18-foot wide road with a 9-foot half width. So the one side will remain 9 foot wide, the other will go to 14, right? Similarly, on Meadowcrest, you have a 7.5-foot wide half width. The one will remain the same, the rest will go to 14, which is more feasible for construction vehicles as well as the new residents that are going to live there.
Any other comments, if I may?
Mr. Phillips, Mr. Drummond?
I would just again clarify that if that residence is going to be oriented towards Chew, that sidewalk be added to the grading plans and details provided on the plan that show the construction of that.
I'm sorry, Roger.
The sidewalk that's shown going to what you're considering to be the front of the house on Chew is only shown on the record plan, and it's not shown on any of the grading plans. And that needs to obviously be designed and make sure it fits into the grading.
Take care of that. Mr. Slattery does own the property across the street, so there may be something that we could do there regarding increasing the cartway.
That's fine. So really what we're getting to is, it would be in the end, it's a 23-foot wide street, right? 14 foot on the one side, 9 on the other. So we're looking for a 23-foot total width without, right? And do the same math for the one on Meadowcrest.
Nick, let me just ask you a question. You said that the applicant owns the property across the street, and does that property cover the length of both of these properties?
It covers the length along Meadowcrest, and it covers the length of the 2 proposed lots.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay,
It just doesn't obviously include Chew, and we'll have to work
Right.
on that issue.
right. And was your comment that you would take the space needed from the other properties across the street?
Or we would move it, we would have to see.
Yeah.
Again, we have to make certain we comply with everything, but perhaps we can shift it this way if there's enough area here and it
Okay.
complies with all the zoning requirements regarding setbacks.
Okay. Any member of the public here to speak on this application? Okay. Can you come forward, state your name and your address?
Hi, I'm Andy Goldenberg. Address is 11 Meadowcrest Road. So our property is to the far right of this page.
And I'm Kelly Goldenberg. I live with him.
Okay.
Sorry for my attire. We came straight from the high school. Didn't go well today. But thank you. So, yeah, we've been here before. So, first of all, we frankly agree with a number of the reservations that have been raised here tonight. We've had a good dialogue with Mr. Slattery regarding their plans. We have certain key concerns with what they've proposed here. I would say that first and foremost is the setback between the edge of our property and the beginning of where the house to the right, house 2 starts. So it's a little bit of a unique area. I'm not sure how many of you guys, I know Mr. Norsini's been back there. Our house dates back to late 1800s. I think it was the first one back there on Meadowcrest proper. Our setback from our property line does not conform to what current standards would be, but obviously there's not a whole lot we can do about that now. So we've asked for some, flexibility with regard to where they place that house to, so that the current requirements for distance between 2 new structures would be met, knowing that our contribution, so to speak, to the distance is inferior. So I believe they've made some concessions to that end, but I'm not sure it's completely to our satisfaction, knowing that we don't control this, but you guys, to some degree, do. So that's first concern is the distance between.
Can I just?
Please.
One other thing I just wanted to add, because based on the research that I've seen, there's a required setback on the back of a house of 35 feet. And unfortunately, just due to the proximity of our house to the property line, where the porch ends, which is this right here, this is only 7.5 feet to the property line. So we're really tight up against that. And so if you think about the fact that the house that currently exists is 57 feet from the property line, and now it's going to be 25 feet from the property line, it's significantly closer. The house is currently a cape, so it's much smaller, it's got a much lower roof line, and all of a sudden, we have a house that's going to be more than twice the size, that's going to be right up against the property on that side, and is going to be really tall. So, you know, the whole aesthetic of the neighborhood is really going to change with the inclusion of these two houses. And so I think that kind of leads to the next.
Yeah, so the placement of House 2 is certainly a question as well. So not just the distance between, but pushing it further back from Meadowcrest will further obscure our view from not only the house, both levels of our house, which is where most of the windows are, given when it was built, but also the deck that we have on that side. So, I mean, I think Kelly has some pictures here.
So this is the deck.
That's our view right now. I mean,
And we watch the sunset on
Yeah.
the deck, and all those trees are all these trees are going to be cut down.
and the house is going to be right there.
There's going to be two houses right there.
And it's going to be up high. So
Um,
we've said somewhat jokingly, not only don't we want to see the new neighbors, I'm not sure they're going to want to see us either, and they're not going to have much
Yeah,
choice.
So this is just the current vantage point. So this is the house that's going to be cut down or taken down and replaced with two. All these trees will be removed. And then this is our neighbors, the Tolucci's, who are also here. So just to kind of give you a sense of what the neighborhood looks like.
So that's the concerns with the structure itself and where it's placed. We share the concern about the width of the road. We've noticed a tremendous amount of vehicular traffic that comes through here now, including mailman and trash trucks and all that stuff, and township maintenance vehicles. And they, you know, we've had this conversation with Mr. Norsini. They kind of cut through, right? There's a ingress egress that goes to Lancaster Avenue. So rather than trying to figure out a way to turn around on that, 14-foot road, they just come right through. And they, you know, the aesthetic of it looks like it's all a continuation of the road. It's actually our driveway. So we wholeheartedly agree that creating a wider, more standard road leading up to our mailbox and our property line would do wonders, not only for, you know, in the emergency vehicles and stuff like that, but regular everyday traffic, in addition to potentially having two households there instead of one. So very eager to hear how that's going to be resolved. And obviously we know that Slattery's have that property on the other side of Meadowcrest. That seems to be a good potential solution. We had some other.
Can I just interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, please,
Yeah.
of course.
So if he widens the road, would you be open to widening the road?
Up to the end of the
Yeah.
true road,
Yeah.
not our driveway,
Yeah.
obviously.
So let's move these real quick.
Yeah.
So, bear with me for a sec. So, Radnor Chester's over here. I'll speak loud since I can't be in the microphone. Radnor Chester's over here. Most of the traffic through our area comes into this fork, and then they come up Meadowcrest Road, and they don't really have. I mean, we've had U.S. Postal Service trucks making K-turns on our lawn. We've had delivery vehicles stuck on our rocks because they're trying to, you know, kind of maneuver there. So anyway, to answer your question, this is our property line. It looks like a road that continues around and goes and lets out to Lancaster Avenue. We think that the aesthetic of a wider roadway here, stopping at more of a true-looking driveway, would actually help us. So we would certainly be open. The neighbors, we even talked about the idea of some sort of cul-de-sac here, where you know, so you don't have trucks making K-turns. You could actually have room for maybe a proper turnaround. It's not at my expense, and it's not my expertise either. I totally understand. I wasn't suggesting anything to the contrary.
Excuse me, I'm
Yes.
confused.
Yeah.
You're saying there's a way to go from Meadowcrest to Lancaster Avenue right now through your driveway?
There is. So, again,
Where? Can you show me where?
it's a little complicated.
'Cause I
So,
have the Google map out right now.
yeah. the Google Maps kind of a contributor, right? All these Uber drivers and,
No, I'm
and,
saying I don't
yeah.
see the,
So,
Well, yeah, let me show you here, right? This is our house.
yeah.
Oh my God, there's my bald head, hold on. This is our house. The road, excuse me, the road ends here. Meadowcrest ends here. But optically, we have a sign that makes it explicitly
Yeah,
clear.
I see that on the map.
Yeah,
on the Google
so
map.
our driveway continues down here. Our neighbor, which is kind of situated over here, is a Lancaster Avenue address. They have permission to use our driveway because they have an upper driveway here, but they do not have an easement. Because they're a Lancaster Avenue address, they technically should enter and exit through Lancaster Avenue, which is here. And this land here, where it says plant schedule, is township property.
and
So-
just to clarify, and this kind of leads to the historic portion of like this neighborhood, our house is the carriage house. Our neighbors, the Hansons, who have a Lancaster Avenue address, is the farm. And then the property in the front was owned by the township. It was a larger building, you know, like home, the main home that was taken down probably 15 years ago, you guys, yeah, when our kids were small. So originally, it was kind of like a compound, if you will, but it's been divided into individual properties since then.
So speaking to the width of the road, I mean, we adding another house, a larger house, the idea of vehicular traffic continuing to use our driveway thinking it's a road is obviously abhorrent. We would like to avoid that at all costs. It's tricky. We knew that when we bought the property, but.
Just, can I ask one clarification? Go ahead, Nick. When you speak of this house that's not yours, that leads out to Lancaster.
Yes.
I'm picturing a house, I don't know which one it is, that has a blue light out at the mailbox on Lancaster.
Yeah, like two.
Is this what is that?
That is the entrance from Lancaster Avenue.
Okay,
Yes,
I
that's
just-
right.
all right, I just wanted
So
to
a
get my
surprising
bearings.
number of vehicles use that.
These are private driveways we're talking about. This isn't a road.
Agree, but he's talking about them cutting through to Lancaster, and I just wanted to know where the blue light came in.
Yeah. And look, it benefits us too. We've committed, we were going to close that off. We've committed to our neighbors that if Chew ever gets cut off or during the building process, Chew is closed for procedural stuff, you know, we'd have to use that as the only way in and out, which is far from ideal. So, and
But also, like, that driveway needs to be replaced, and we've kind of waited, and now we need to replace it. So we're not as flexible necessarily as we had been before, just because if we're going to pay $25,000 to repave our driveway, it's not an option. Like, we're not, yeah.
Sorry to be cut you. It's also not going to be an option for construction vehicles. So when they're building these, you know, whatever they're building here, they're going to they're not going to be able to use our driveway to move, you know, concrete haulers and anything else. So there's a lot of strings attached here. Real quick, I know everybody's busy. The trees, we have concern, I mean, these are heirloom trees. These are 100-year-old trees. They're already under siege from the oak-borne virus and all this other stuff. The idea of chopping down all these, you know, heirloom trees and replacing them with Home Depot specials is a little bit unattractive. And then.
So just our question there is really, you know, it is twofold. One, we understand if the replacement has to be one-to-one, but is the onus to replace with trees that are comparable? I mean, again, like most of these trees are 50 years old, they're all different types of specimens, like, and then all of a sudden we're gonna plant these privacy trees that all look exactly the same. I think the other concern that I have is that the footprint of the one house versus the two is increased by 410%. So all of a sudden, we're cutting down all the trees on the property, and now we're gonna, and you can see from this, we're gonna fit all these trees in so that we can get credit for them along like the property line. You know, we're in a situation, again, that we live in a carriage house. All of the windows are on one side of the house. You can see all of our natural light comes from only that side. And now we're going to be in a situation where we've got 10, 15 new trees because we're trying to meet the, you know, the tree quota for the property, because the houses have been maxed out in terms of their size. They've been maxed out in terms of their height. They've been maxed out in terms of the square footage. And and the positioning is like every square, like we can't be an inch closer to either side. I think maybe Peter had proposed earlier, if the entrance of the Chew Lane one was all of a sudden on Meadowcrest, then we wouldn't have such a need to have a 35-foot backyard in the middle, and the houses could be pushed together. Then, you know, the Tolucci's who are in the back get a little bit of the privacy back. We get a little bit of privacy back because the houses are repositioned in a different way.
Thank you guys for hearing us, hearing our concerns.
Thank you.
I just want to hold on one second. Andy.
I know John wanted to speak to the trees.
Yeah, if you don't have to come down, sorry, I was just trying to.
My name is John Tolucci. I'm at 113 Chew Lane, which is the property all along this line right here. I was in the construction business for roughly 30 years, and, you know, when I bought the house, I was single, no kids.
I'm sorry, what is your property?
113 Chew Lane. It's the entire property on the backside.
Okay.
I've been there 30 years, and make a long story short, when I see the number of arborvitaes that they want to put along my property line to separate the houses, considering our proximity to Martha Brown's woods and the number of deer that come through there, my backyard's going to turn into a cafeteria plant. Because the trees are just going to get decimated. If you've ever seen an arborvitae up to about 7 feet in height, there's nothing growing on the low end because the deer just come in and eat it all. There's a natural hedge there right now. If possible, I'd like to keep that. I haven't spoken with Jim about that, but I'd like to try to keep the aesthetic beauty of the area that we really are fighting to kind of maintain. You know, I understand Jim's, you know, inclination to put 2 houses there. I don't fault him for that. Naturally, I think the lot holds 1 house. My wife feels the same way. We had a 2-acre lot. We ended up selling roughly 1 acre of our property to the township. We were involved in a subdevelopment with another individual. We were going to merge part of our property with the Leeming property. We were going to put 7 carriage homes in there. Make a long story short, we ended up fighting the township for over 2 years, and regardless of the criteria that we met to build these homes, the township basically wasn't going to give us the permits, so they bought us out. The beauty is that we've got all this open land now. And when you've lived with that open land for as long as we have, the last thing you want to do is give it back. Even though we don't own it. I mean, we've gotten used to a certain quality of life. It's nice and quiet back there. There's only 7 houses. It's been that way for a long time. I understand people want to develop the township, but, you know, within reason, come on. I mean, you guys got rid of marginal lots, you got rid of flag lots, and you did it for a reason, so that people wouldn't split off their 3 and 5 acre homes into 8 little tract houses. I'm not happy with this plan, but if you have to approve it, I'd like to make sure that while this work is done on this property, that we don't have to pay the cost of progress. And that being, you know, the road's going to get torn up. I mean, the road already needs to get repaved, and because it is a private road, it's going to get shredded with all of this construction traffic. I mean, you know, a cement truck weighs 80,000 pounds. I can only imagine how many guys are going to be coming in their trucks. They're going to need somewhere to park. You know, I don't have any here, so I got nothing to lose in that department, but in terms of the aggravation that this could potentially cause me, because I do work on my own home, I know what it takes to get the work done, they're gonna have a lot of people there. Whether they build 1 house or 2 houses, I'd prefer to see 1 house on the lot. Other than that, I got no other concerns. Thank you.
I just have one question to the applicant. Mr. Cornelia, you're anticipating that you'll have a landscaping plan?
Yes, I believe Shade Trees approved the plan.
Okay,
My understanding. They were there, I think, last week.
okay. I was not there.
That's right.
am
I
the
thought
sh-
maybe.
I am the shade tree
I
representative.
know you are.
I
That's
was not
why
there.
that's why I kind of looked at you when I said it, yeah.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Okay. And there is a landscaping plan, I assume, is there? Oh, okay.
This is showing all the new trees and all. And what's being removed is pine trees
Remember, yeah.
and a couple of, well,
Jim, if you're going to talk, you got to talk in the mic.
So my name is Jim Slattery, I'm the owner of this property. There is one oak tree that has a significant amount of dead in it right here that is being removed. Otherwise, there are only ash trees and pine trees that are being removed. And following shade trees requirements, we're putting in large canopy trees and all other ones. This line of arborvitae was really added just to really add some screening. It has nothing to do with the count, and if Mr. Tolucci didn't want some of those there, I'd be glad to put in fewer of them, that's fine. This is where Mr. Tolucci lives, and then right on the other side is Lancaster Avenue. So you do see traffic coming, 24 hours a day at this point, Lancaster Avenue. So I just thought that, this line of additional arborvitae would be nice, but these have absolutely nothing to do with meeting shade trees requirements.
I mean, it sounds like you requested a table. I have a feeling you're going to get it. Maybe this would be a good opportunity to work with neighbors to perhaps refine the plan.
Yeah, I know we've spoken to them extensively, as they have mentioned themselves.
Just a suggestion.
Sure, I get it.
And I promise to attend more shade tree meetings as the representative.
Yeah, Commissioner, I was just going to recommend that as well, that since you're already sort of thinking of tabling this, that a workshop with your neighbors to consider the landscape architecture approach to it, but also the architectural approach to it, because I feel like, I know the floor plans are set, but, I work in the industry, there are ways that you can adjust things and push things in and maybe create some setbacks, maybe on the top story, to create a sense that the buildings not be so imposing on the neighbors and to allow some sunlight to come through.
Yep.
I also feel like in the same meeting, you can have a construction staging sort of concept plan worked out with your neighbors so that they can be minimally disrupted.
So for construction, if we needed to, for vehicles, I own all of this up in here as well, and I'd certainly be glad to let them park any kind of vehicles up in there.
Great.
And just to be clear, this on this side here is the P&W walking trail. So it goes to where Radnor Chester Road is. So there's nothing it's about a 25-foot dip there.
Yeah, and one thing is, I think I mentioned early on, was this driveway at one point was on this side, adjacent to the neighbor. That has been moved, and I believe a lot of that had to do with discussions they have with the neighbors.
Yeah.
So that lessened the impact on them as well. But, we'll request a waiver, and unless there's any other questions or comments, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
Okay. Would you like us to table?
Yes, please, and I'll give you the necessary, I'll send Steve or Mr. Norsini the necessary extension until probably now, June, July, probably August, we would be going into.
Okay.
Nick, one last question. Just looking at the title report, I see that there is a maintenance agreement regarding the private road. It seems to indicate that there's a separate agreement granting rights over the rights over the private road. Is there a separate one, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll look into it.
Come up to the microphone, please.
What private road are you referring to? Are you referring to Shoe Lane, or are you referring?
Just to Meadowcrest at this point in time. But they also need rights to go over Shoe Lane in order to get out to Radnor Chester.
Okay, so when I bought my house, October of '91, the road was in disrepair, and my mortgage company gave me 6 months to get the road fixed. So I worked with all of the neighbors, basically because I was in the business back then, had a paving company come out, and what we did is we split the different road areas depending on who lived where. So, for example, the first part of Chew Lane, we split that like 7 ways. And then those people who lived on Meadowcrest basically absorbed that cost. And at the time, before the Goldbergs came in, the Mungals, they ended up picking up the largest part of the cost because it wasn't just that roadway, but then it was their entire driveway that was paved. And then Chew Lane was split 2 ways because the house at the end of Chew Lane wasn't built there. So what we did is we all entered into an agreement, we all signed it, put the money in an escrow account, and then the road was paved. But we don't have like any kind of an HOA. We've talked about it, but you know how far crazy HOAs have gotten, so it never went anywhere from there. But other than that, we don't have any other agreement other than just the fact that it is a private road, and we actually have the township now has access to the road since I sold part of my property to the township.
What happens during snow removal?
So the township has agreed to plow the road, is I guess part of their services. So they do provide plowing. Before that, I used to plow the road. So I've been there a while, 30 years, 31 years now, 32 years.
I actually have a question now. So the driveway that connects to Lancaster Avenue that has the blue, the mailbox?
The lights,
blue
the
light,
candelabras.
Whose house is that?
That's Dr. Hanson.
Dr. Hanson, okay. I just think that, so that is not, obviously, that's not part of this discussion, nor will it be.
No,
right?
so Dr. Hanson has a easement through the Leeming property that the township now owns. And that's his legal ingress, egress to his home.
Okay.
So he doesn't have any legal access through the Goldberg property. If they give it to him, it's based on just, random here and there. But since Hansons aren't willing to contribute to the paving of the road, why should they get to use it? Because the road is technically their driveway. And there's really no delineation between where Meadowcrest ends. I mean, it literally merges from Meadowcrest right into the driveway. And a lot of people drive up there thinking, wow, I think I went too far. And then they try to back down, and it creates a lot of problems. And I can see all that from the backside of my house. So, but other than that, that's pretty much it.
Thanks for the explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'm going to make a motion. This is with regard to application 213220 for land development at 3 Meadowcrest Road. At the request of the applicant, move to table the application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Fruman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, 6-0.
Thank you
Okay.
for your time.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda is consideration of application 214548 for land development at 118 to 120 North Wayne Avenue. The property currently houses a bar restaurant and a dry cleaner business. Here, the applicant proposes to demolish the current buildings and has submitted a sketch plan for the reconstruction of a 3-story building at that property to include restaurant retail on the first floor, office space on the second floor, and 4 residential apartment units on the third floor. And as part of our consideration, we've received letters from Gannett Fleming and Gilmore and Associates, both dated May 22, 2025. Do we have a...
Lane, pardon me. This is a project out of my office, so I'm going to step down here.
Understood. Thank you. Please.
Dan Cellino, architect, here representing the applicant. I have with me John Anderson from Cornerstone, and then the property owner, Joe Smogard. 118, 120 North Wayne is a previously consolidated lot. It has two buildings on it. One is 118 North, the restaurant, and adjacent to it, a dry cleaner. Access to the site is in two parts. First, through an alley easement off of North Wayne, and then second, common access easement that's shared between the adjacent property owners. Let's go to the site plan here. As mentioned, the proposed building is a three-story structure, retail restaurant on the ground floor, commercial space second, and then 4 apartment units up above. Although this is a new structure, the intent is to refit the restaurant space for the current restaurant tenant. Restaurant and retail footprints are slightly smaller than the existing restaurant and dry cleaner footprint currently. And we're doing that in part to make room for parking in the back, as well as a dedicated trash room and exit egress stair.
Let me just ask you real quick, as far as the parking, how many parking spaces do you have?
So
Will you have?
Currently or
No,
proposing?
how many are current at the property?
There's 4 current.
There's 4 currently, and if you did this project, you'd have how many?
7.
And would those be allocated specifically to the uses on the property?
Yeah, so 4 would be dedicated to the 4 apartment units that are on the 3rd floor.
Okay.
And then the rest dedicated to the commercial space,
To,
the second story commercial.
to the second story, to the
Second.
office?
Yes.
I'm just curious, do you have any vision as to what kind of business would be on the second floor?
We do. So it would be owner occupied. The owner has a title agency. He's planning on approximately 4 to 5 full-time employees in that space.
And he would be taking up 3 spaces, is that what you're saying, in the back?
That's correct, yeah.
And that would just be for either the owner or his employees?
And yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't be for customers, clients?
Well, I suppose it could be
I'm just curious.
It'll be up to the owner to make that allocation.
Okay.
While we're on parking, Mr. Chair, if I could, so if you could
Please.
walk me through sheet 1 of 1. I see a 25-foot width common access easement. And then I see parking spaces 6 and 7, right? So I see in your building, you're going to park 5, 1 with an ADA space. So maybe I'm wrong, but if you have an 18-foot long parking space and a 25-foot wide easement, does that give me 7 feet to get through there to the building? Or are you using the other portion? It's not clearly defined if you
Yeah,
can.
so this is something that we'll have to work through. We're arranging the parking in this way because it is how the existing neighbors are parking that access easement. So if we were to use the access easement as its intended use as a drive aisle, we'd be putting our neighbors out of their current parking spaces. So it'll have to be an agreement that we have with our neighbors
So
to use that space to get into our parking lot.
So the one bearing south, 0 feet, 45 minutes, 7 seconds west, right? That's adjacent to those parking spaces. You're saying basically you're going to have to drive beyond that onto their property through some agreement.
We would have to, and that is how that's how the 4 parking spaces that are on site currently are being used, and obviously the adjacent neighbors are using it as well.
So I didn't see an existing conditions plan, and you're not obligated to provide one, but how are things being parked now here?
Yeah, so I'll use this aerial image. you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parking spaces that are within our property confines. And then likewise, if you follow that line down, our neighbors are parking in the same manner. And so this width right here is that 25-foot wide common access easement between the property owners.
Okay, got it. And is there a reason why you felt that you needed to provide more than 4 parking spaces?
Well, we're going to have to request a variance for parking and loading. So we're trying to provide as many parking spaces as we can without effectively significantly reducing the footprint of the restaurant retail, which is, vital to the business district there.
Okay, understood. With respect to the existing retail and existing, I guess, restaurant or bar, tavern, how does the square footage change?
We're about 400 to 500 square feet less than that existing.
And how do the parking requirements change?
Currently,
What I'm asking for, just to clarify, I don't want to take you down this path for too long. What's required today in that particular space for ground floor, right? And what are you proposing in the future? That would be very helpful for us to see in order for us to get behind this plan.
okay. Yeah, I don't have the exact square footage of the existing, so I would need that to tell you exactly what parking would be required there.
Sure. We're pretty smart regarding floor 2, also floor 3. We get that. Floor 1 is, I'd like to see a delta.
Okay.
Question. So based on this parking plan that we're looking at with the eight spots, I guess, 4 and 4, there's still room back there for trash trucks and delivery trucks?
There are currently trash trucks make their way back there to pick up trash for the 2 restaurants and 2 shops that are back there. So we'll in the next round, the future plan, we'll show those turning radiuses.
Can you just point to where the trash is?
Well, the trash room will be here, and existing, it's kind of a free-for-all. Trash is located approximately here, and then the neighboring properties kind of put them, where they can along that back alley easement.
I'm just trying to see, are you parking the trash in?
If I speak real quick, currently.
Can you come up? Yeah.
Current owner. So, hi, thank you.
Just state your name.
Joe Smogard, current owner. So right now, the current restaurant trash is in the back corner, and it is kind of parked in, and they make people move their vehicles when they pull it out. So the revised plan puts it just down the alleyway, so that trash trucks have direct access to the trash, and it's a little bit easier to get to. The other trash is currently strewn about, sometimes in the corners and along what would technically be the easement access right now. So that's where they were talking about previous parking history. Everyone parks on the back of the alleyway. That is technically the easement access, but it's been used like this, I've been told, for 30, 40 plus years. So everyone practically parks back there and then uses the property as the actual driveway. So when we were planning it, the idea was to make the trash access actually easier on everyone to come straight through.
Is that on the other side? Where you're
it
pointing
is-
to where the trash is?
It will be on not on the easement side, but the current use side.
So just can you do it again? Point
Yeah.
where the trash is now and where the trash will
So
be.
trash on this map here, using this new one.
Can you do it on the one that's?
Yep.
Yeah.
Trash is currently here.
Right.
And, kind of a hassle. We're going to put it here.
Okay.
Where it would actually be practical to be straight in and out.
But you are putting one of the parking spaces in front of it.
No, one of the parking spaces, we're reducing the size of this building here, which is currently the dry cleaner, That's 120 North Wayne. And that reduction would result in these 2 parking spaces. So they're going to be tucked in and not actually block in any of the trash. That's going to be an alleyway for them to be able to turn in. I don't know how they fit their trucks, but they do it. They turn in, they back down, and then they grab the trash, and then they pull out.
But from a practical standpoint, since you're going to have commercial office and since you're going to have, how many residential units?
4.
You're going to, I would imagine you're going to have a frequency, if the frequency for trash pickup is going to be more than with what you currently have right now, right?
It actually probably should go down by eliminating the dry cleaner. The plan is to put like a antique shop in that space instead of the dry cleaner. The dry cleaner puts out a lot of trash and obviously uses a lot of water. So by having an antiquities shop there, it would decrease trash pickup. And then my title insurance company is all paper trash. It's really not a ton.
Does any part of your new building overhang on the parking and the trash facility?
It does not, no.
Okay. And what type of trash truck fits?
Oh, I'm
down-
sorry, let me clarify.
The building completely overhangs the parking.
I thought you were talking about the access easement here. So, yeah, everything that's shaded gray here is building above.
That's what I thought. So, so that trash is actually, there's a enclosed, there's something over it, there's a canopy over it.
Yeah.
So are you designing, what kind of trash truck fits there? Can you explain?
So, I mean, that's something we'll still have to work out. You know, perhaps we're taking trash out to the edge in some way, and we're allocating space for easier access. But
anyways, go ahead.
This is my part of my life. Who do you use, Republic or Waste Management?
I have no idea what the restaurant uses right now. It's all my tenants on a triple net lease.
They're
But-
able to solve. They're able to solve your issue.
I'm David Abraham. I own the Tiger Shop. in North-
Yeah, please come up to the microphone then.
I have the Tiger Shop next to the dry cleaner. I've been in my store 55 years, since 1970. Trash trucks do not come. They come down the alley, park, the guys jump out of the trucks, and they come out and they push those big, giant containers down the driveway because you can't fit a trash truck there. So I'm
There we go.
listening to this
You go.
nonsense. Oh, wait. I've been there a long time, brother. They can't turn those waste management trucks in the alley in the corner. You can't get fire trucks down there. And everybody parks back there. I don't care how you park it. You can't get down that alley. So I don't want to hear how you're going to get the trash. That's all. I just couldn't take it anymore because this guy's not telling me the truth.
Oh, no,
I don't think Mr. Smogart's being disingenuous. I don't think he knows. I think he said his tenant takes care of all of that. I don't think he's trying to misrepresent. It's a sketch plan. Pretty much everything I've heard from them tonight is we're going to have to look into that.
I was not trying to trip anybody up.
Yeah,
I
and I
was
know
just
that.
genuinely trying to understand how the trash situation is going to work because when I see that existing aerial and I see your site plan, it already speaks to me like someone's going to roll out the dumpster and put it into the trash vehicle because it's just too cumbersome to make that work.
So these are the exact questions and feedback I think Mr. Smogart is looking for in the sketch. Like, how are you going to handle the trash? How's this parking going to work? How are you going to get?
Plus, I think loading and unloading is just much simpler to do it over the curb through the front door than to go through the back.
This is, again, all the feedback we're looking for, so we're appreciative.
Waste, if you work with these large contract or companies like Waste Management or Republic, they will figure out these issues for you. This is my experience.
I will apologize if I had a misunderstanding.
No, all good.
It's not my current restaurant.
One question I have is with the dry cleaners, do they actually do the dry cleaning at the premises, or is that drop off?
They do some on premises, and I had an environmental study done before I bought the building.
So it's clean?
It's
There's
clean.
no perk?
Yeah.
No
No,
contamination?
I had everything done before I bought the building as a condition of the purchase. So I have that study, came back below remediation thresholds. I think it's like 0.03 or 0.3. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was over a year ago, but I had that all done
You did
before
a
purchase.
phase two?
Phase two.
That was my
It did
clarification. My
not-
clarification was this was a phase
It
two?
was a phase two. A phase one determined you needed a phase two because of the dry cleaner. We did a phase two and then I think there is a phase three, but I didn't get there. So we had a phase three that passed everything. and I have that report from.
Phase 2 passed.
Sorry, thank you, sorry. Phase 2, that passed everything, and I have that report
Okay.
from now, probably 16, 17 months ago.
Well, your lender would have issues otherwise.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they would have. They required it.
Okay.
Regarding the access easement where everyone's parking and blocking it currently, does that end with your property or does it continue past your property?
It ends with our property.
Okay. I have some concern about sort of proceeding under some expectation of an agreement that you sort of ignore that easement because of established practices, build a building that overhangs the back of your property, assuming certain access, and then we come back down the road to the shop next door looking to do a development, and they want their easement back, and we've all kind of started to box ourselves into a corner. Have you had conversations with the neighbors about abiding by that easement sort of as intended, or the potential sort of implications of that?
We have not yet, but it's something we definitely will be doing.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested in sort of what potentially plays out there.
So I think part of the effort tonight was to just show the project, say, here's what we're thinking about for this site. How does it feel to the Planning Commission? I mean, is it a pipe dream? Is it something that the Planning Commission thinks could be reasonably done? We understand there's relief that's necessary as part of this project. And so this is more of a take the temperature of the Planning Commission, which is why Mr. Smogart wanted to go forward with a sketch plan rather than proceeding initially with either zoning relief or some type of preliminary plan. And so we're just really here to listen, get the feedback, hear the questions y'all are bringing up, because I think they're good ones. You know, how are you going to address parking? How are you going to address trash? How are you going to address getting people in and out? What's your density going to look like? How's the space going to change? What are you anticipating for users? All those things.
Let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you intending to have the current 118 back in as a tenant?
That is the intent.
So it's going to be a music venue?
I think the intent is to bring the exact same user back for the space. Yeah, okay. So it's a music venue, bar, restaurant.
Okay. So first question is, if you put residential up on the top floor, does that have any effect on other persons' usage of like either outdoor dining, rooftop dining?
Would it impact like the ground floor?
No. Are there restrictions? And maybe Mr. Nelson, you could chime in.
There are restrictions, but they only apply to single-family and two-family residential dwellings, not to apartments as being proposed here.
Okay, so that part will not affect this project?
I don't believe so.
I thought so. Okay. However, do you have any concerns with putting residential on top of something like 118?
So I think it's something Mr. Smogart has considered and thought about. I think, again, we're very early in this process, but what I can tell you is, as part of a development of this kind over a music venue, it would just require extreme soundproofing, and there's folks that do that specifically. I think that's, if we got further along in the process, I think the details of that type of consideration would come through.
Okay.
And we'd have to work, obviously, with the operator at 118, and then with experts with respect to sound. More specifically to the residents than anybody, obviously, that live up there and have to live over music.
Just looking, are you buying yourself trouble, and is it just going to be a problem?
I think it's a good question.
I'm not as concerned. I mean, it's a new construction, and it's one thing if you are squeezing a music venue underneath an existing apartment, but that's not what's happening here, right?
It's being reconstructed,
It's being
knowing the
completely
use.
reconstructed, so buyer beware. Right?
They have it in Ardmore, right?
Right. I mean, mixed-use buildings, this is what we want. This is the kind of projects that we want, but we just need it to be a little bit more thoughtful. I mean, if the residential units are geared towards singles or college students, you may want to have some other considerations here, security considerations. If they're geared towards empty nesters, you may want to actually widen your hallways because they sort of have bigger furniture than college students.
Can you just go back to your plan and show where the tenants for level 2 and level 3 enter the building?
Yeah, of course. It's all happening off of North Wayne Ave, so it's the primary entrance is off of here, and then an option to take a stair or an elevator up to level 2 and 3.
And are there separate elevator entrances for 2 and 3, or are they all the same?
It's one elevator, one stair in the primary lobby to get up to both 2 and 3.
Can you clarify what the staircase is then on the back of the property?
The commercial office space will require 2 means of egress, so that's a second means of egress.
The residential that would park?
Residential does not. Since it's 4 apartment units and no higher than 3 stories, it only requires 1.
I understand, but how do they get from where they park their car in the front door on North Wayne?
The main lobby corridor is accessible from both the back and the front of the building.
Okay, do we have any members of the public who wish to make any comment? Okay, can you,
I have, if I can just, one last thing.
I was going to come back to staff anyway, but
Okay.
you can do it now if you want, either way.
You need to provide, the title report you provided mentioned 5 different recorded documents. The township needs to be provided those. And I need to look them over after the township have provided those.
Understood.
Thank you.
And if I may, I just want
Sure.
to cover two other aspects of the project, and give a look at what's happening at the upper floors as well. So this is level 3, 4 apartment units, each approximately 800 square feet. Each will have their own dedicated private outdoor deck. Any roof space that's available, that's not being occupied or not being occupied by mechanical equipment will be green roof, and that'll aid in our stormwater management.
So could you just point out where each of the decks, the private decks are?
Sure. So just as a point of clarification, North Wayne Ave is out here. Set back about 11 and a half feet is the first unit, and the private deck is directly off of that.
Okay.
And then adjacent to each of the remaining units, and off the back as well here.
So for the ones in the middle, is there some kind of dividing line?
There would be, yes.
Okay.
And you're saying that the only access to these units will be in an elevator? Is that, did I hear you correctly?
Elevator and stair.
Oh, and stairs. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. Will there be a green roof as well?
Yes, and like I said, that'll be part of our stormwater management strategy.
What is the maximum height in this zoning district?
Believe it's 42, 42 feet.
And you're building up to the maximum height?
It is, yeah. And just a few words about the face of the building. We're striving to fit the context in both material and scale. Red brick, there's a bunch of red brick buildings around. The top of the front-facing 2 stories, so the cornice of level 2, right here, will approximately align to the neighboring building. On top of that, we have planters that'll help screen that first apartment's outdoor deck. So those planters will be set back a few inches, and then set back another 11, 12 feet will be the face of the 3rd-story building. So that's this piece that's set back here. We intend on keeping the trees that are on site out front as well.
Okay.
For the front of the property, if you could just flip back to one of the plans that shows the sort of red outline of the parcel. It extends into North Wayne Avenue. Can we just clarify the sort sort of right-of-way requirements and any implications of the roadway there?
Thank you for bringing that up.
John, I might let you answer
If I
that
may
one.
jump in. So thank you, because the right-of-way line is about halfway through the parking spaces. So we're going to request that the right-of-way be brought back to face of curb. And we'll be trying to do this with any of these buildings as they get taken down. That way we have the entire parking lot within the right-of-way.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, this would be the first on that stretch then, to make that adjustment?
Yes.
My pipe dream might be the other direction, to actually take the curb to the right-of-way
Actually,
line.
right at the corner, I think, actually, of Lancaster and North.
The former Wayne
The
Jewelers,
former
we
Wayne
had them do
Jewelers.
it, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pipe dream might be the other direction, to take the curb to the right-of-way line and put in parallel parking, so we get some more comfortable curbs in North Wayne Avenue, but just wanted to clarify that. I mean, you mentioned you came to sort of take the pulse here. I like the mixed use. I like the setbacks on the third floor. I like the building material choices. I like squeezing in as much parking as you can at the expense of first floor retail square footage and having the overhang and the green roofs. So overall, sort of pleased with the plan. I like the buffer of the office space on the second floor between the first floor commercial space to try and avoid problems down the line. I would like some clarity on the sort of logistics of the easement, the delivery windows, things like that. Overall, for one-bedroom apartments, in my mind, is sort of suitable for the space near a train station, busy sort of North Wayne Avenue, versus putting some single larger unit up there. So, yeah, excited to see how this progresses, but thanks for bringing it to us in the sketch plan.
Thank you.
One question I have is, why the second floor of commercial office? Why not create more apartment units? Obviously, parking may be an issue.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, to jump up, I mean, I really want my business in
Okay.
the area. I do a lot of title business, and I don't want to disrupt the first floor. I mean, I know everyone wants a dry cleaner gone, and I'm happy to oblige with that one. But I don't want to move 118 North, take over, by right, my title insurance company shouldn't be on ground floor, it should be on a second floor. So I do a lot of business throughout the main line, and I want my business on North Wayne Ave. So it was really an ability to get my business there and put it there.
And the residential, that will be rental properties, it won't be condo?
Correct, that'll be rentals.
Okay, can we have public comment? Please.
Yeah, again, I'm from the Tiger Shop, David Abraham. Are you guys going to use the rooftop deck for any kind of like entertainment in the restaurant? So that's just going to be for the guys who have the apartments?
Private for the apartment. Yeah, private.
Okay,
Private.
all right. And what about my building's about 100 years old. So have you looked at the structural part of, when you knock down, you're not like you're taking the whole thing down. How's that going to affect the building that I'm in at all? I mean, you look at the facade, the bricks all touch, everything meets each other, the gas line's right there. So you're gonna have to do a lot of work, right? Of course, yes. And so, and my roof is not the best roof in the world. So you have no qualms about when taking this down, how that's going to affect the building next door to me, my building? Or you haven't looked at it?
We do projects in urban areas.
No, I understand,
all the time.
but have you looked at it? That's my question.
We had a structural engineer evaluate our structure.
Right, but not my structure.
But as we get into construction,
If we share a party wall, I mean, that party wall was evaluated, right? I wanted to build on top, I'll be honest with you.
Right, yeah, no, I understand.
I'm sorry, could we have this dialogue?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
mic'd up?
I surrender, I quit, okay.
We have a handheld here.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to know, I thought the roof deck might be used like the Great American Pub roof deck, where they, the kids go up there and, eat and drink. So, yeah, and I was worried about my building, that when you really knock that whole thing down, what your liability is going to be to us, that's all. And I know, and do you have any idea how long this project would take?
So, through approvals, we're looking at another year.
When you
And-
start,
and-
how
and-
long
and
the
design.
construction part, yeah,
We're going to call it approximately a year.
a year, okay. So it's gonna go through Christmas, through the Christmas season, into the season, like, they're gonna have the festival on Saturday, the music. So I'm just curious about your timing, if and when this starts, how it's going to affect the rest of the business on the street. I mean, Kathy's here from the bookstore. That's a main access right there to the whole street. You know, the ambulances come down, the fire truck, everybody parks in the middle of the street. Cisco Food, the beer trucks, all the stuff for you guys, restaurants, they park in the center lane. So it could be a possible problem if all the trucks, I mean, you're gonna need cranes, you're gonna knock down dump trucks. So if everybody's there at the same time, and God forbid there's a fire and all the trucks are there, so there needs to be some kind of delivery situation, early in the morning, late at night, so that center island, that double line where all those trucks park, those 18 big, heavy beer trucks. UPS parks there, everybody parks there. So you know what it's like. So I was just saying, maybe there
Okay.
should be during construction some kind of something. Safety thing, that's all.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please.
Hi, my name is Kathy Feeback. I'm the owner of Main Point Books, so I represent the other side of the building. You guys have covered a lot of, sort of my concerns. I just thought this was a good time to bring it up before things get too far along. So parking is really a big issue around us. We're already sort of maxed out. If I have an event in the evening, there is no hope of anybody being able to park. Like, you have to go, none of the major parking lots. So adding more people to the area is going to be a little bit problematic, and I'm kind of curious about that. My other issue was soundproofing. We've moved all our events into the basement because it is really loud. It's worked for both of us. I mean, there's not, it's good, but I imagine with those apartments that could be really problematic. It is really loud. And same thing, our walls go up against the wall, like, when the actual building is being done. I am concerned about my business, like losing parking and people not being able to get close. So I just hope as we move forward that there's a lot of sort of conversation, transparency, that we hear what's going on, because we'll do our best to work around it, but it's kind of scary to me, so.
Just to be clear, there is impact right now from 118 music to your business today?
Yeah, you can hear it. I mean, we turn our music off when they have performers because you hear it clearer than you hear what we're playing.
Okay. I'm going to assume that that'll be ameliorated to the extent possible with new construction.
Yeah,
I see nodding.
It could be
yeah.
better. I mean, it doesn't have to all get worse, I know that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Okay. Any other staff comment?
I think you touched on most of the things that I identified in my letter, but I wanted to, if I could just get the aisle width, that is the alley. It wasn't indicated on the drawings. I measured it out to be about 12 feet or so at your scale. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's the ingress and egress to the parking, which the requirement is 25 feet. And further in the discussion of parking, they indicated they're providing 7, which they have 4 now. The need is 58, to just be clear, to call your attention to that.
And when you say the ingress, egress, are you talking about at North Wayne Avenue?
Yes, between the two buildings that's shown on the top of their plan there, that's how you access behind their buildings. It's like,
But that area is not the applicant's property, is that right?
but that's the only access to
It's not
the rear of the
understood.
buildings.
We'll provide that.
Yeah.
With.
So in order to drive your car behind there to utilize one of the parking spaces, you have to go through the alley between two buildings that are, I believe, 3 buildings up the street where the opening is. Now, you're right, they don't own either one of those. They have the right to access that easement, but it's only 12 feet wide or somewhere around there.
Yep.
where the requirement would be 25.
Yep. Okay. Any other commissioner question, comment?
Can we just clarify the comment in the letter that the common area or common access easement appears to terminate prior to accessing this property? Was that?
Yeah, that was the discussion about the rear of the neighboring property with that easement to the rear of the property line, and it terminates at their property line. So, again, it was questioning how they would utilize the part of the rear of that building that's not in that easement. So that would have to be, I agree that it's been done that way for 40 years. It just needs to be memorialized.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, with that, we're not going to take any action on this project, so we will stay tuned for more information.
Mr. Chairman, before we go, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. This is an interesting project, somewhat compelling, and you know, as we look at the history of what it is, what kind of development we want in Wayne, it's not just this current comprehensive land use plan that likes this type of development, it's also the prior one, which specifically says, you know, we want to encourage residential on the upper floors of our WBOD. I think it would be very interesting to see the existing condition plan. Definitely, we need to see what the parking situation is like today. What are the parking requirements? Spoiler alert, you're non-conforming today. You will be non-conforming if this plan proceeds. We'd like to see the extent of that non-conformity. I will say, just from my perspective, me personally, I feel that you don't need 7 spaces. Traditionally, when we looked at plans like this, we particularly 150 to 168 East Lancaster Avenue, we've asked for the residential parking to be accounted for, but we've allowed free reign on retail, and this will have an office component, probably less parking intensive. So I think 4 here would suffice. I would imagine that you can expect some vigorous commentary in the style of architecture of this development. I'll leave that to future meetings, but certainly would like to see more, and we expect to see more. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right, with that, we do not have any additional new or old business that I'm aware of, so motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. The next meeting of the Planning Commission is scheduled for July 7, 2025. Thank you and good evening.